Welcome to Kevin's European Garage, and today I'm going to be talking about the ownership cost of this 2013 Porsche Cayenne. So let's talk about the cost of ownership. So I've had this vehicle now for the past 4.5 years, and a few things that I didn't have to pay for that were still under warranty when I got the vehicle was that the clock in the dashboard, one of the little hands had fallen off the clock, so they had replaced that for me. Then the next thing was that the fuel level sender went bad. So I wasn't reading any gas as far as the level, so they replaced that under warranty. And also the rear hatch struts, mine were making a lot of noise when they're going up and down. So they replaced that also under warranty. So those are the three things that I did not have to pay for. I didn't put them into the cost or anything like that. So basically we'll just start off with the basics over here. So oil changes. Some of them I brought to the dealership, and that could range anywhere from $275 to $325. And if you brought it to, like, say, an independent shop, you expect to spend about $100 for oil change. And if you're doing it yourself, like how I have been for the while now, I end up spending about $50 or so per oil change by going picking up my stuff on Costco when it's on sale. So I factored in about $1,000 on oil changes. Light bulbs, about $20 in bulbs over the past couple of years. Then you get your cabin filter, your regular engine air filter. So the filters, I spent about $100 on the filters, which really isn't that much. Engine air filter, that was a Cayenne too, so I don't really have to worry about spending any more money on it. I just have to make sure I clean it. Brakes. So this was a kind of a little messed up thing where I bought a power stop kit, and the problem with the kit is that the front brakes are the wrong diameter. So my cost of the brakes is a little bit off. So it should have been a little bit cheaper than this, but I ended up having to go and get another set of aftermarket brakes that aren't really that good, and they're the cheap import rotors. And those rotors, they have a lot of they get a lot of rust embedded in the rotor. Then it doesn't matter how much you drive, it just doesn't go away because they're very porous casting. So they're not very good rotors. It is what it is, and I will definitely have to fix that at some point. So I ended up spending about $459 in brakes. And so the wheels and tires on my vehicle, those are 22s. Those are not factory, they're aftermarket. I think the factory only go up to a 21-inch wheel. So those are 22 aftermarkets. And with some used tires on them, I spent about $800 to get those 22s with the used tires on them. And I've been actually using, this is my third summer on them. So it's actually been pretty good as far as the amount of time I've gotten out of them. And I spent, like I said, I spent $800 on that. Then you got wiper blades. The front and rear wiper blades I've replaced a few times, and I ended up spending about $75 on wiper blades. Transfer case. With me swapping out all that fluid, all those so many times right now, I got at least, I would say, about 5 liters on it. If not more, I can't remember exactly, but at least I've spent at least $200 in transfer case fluid. And another thing that happened is that the water pump, I had to replace the water pump, and that always happens on these vehicles, especially on the VR6 engines, around 60,000 miles. And so the cost of changing the water pump was $296. And let me remind you that all this, there's no labor charge in any of this. This is me doing all the work. Next thing I did on this thing was I had to replace my PCV valve, which it's in itself is only cost $26 just for the valve, to get an aftermarket valve. But with everything else involved, so I ended up changing the spark plugs, the valve cover gasket, the intake manifold gasket, the PCV valve. I did the injector seals, and I also had to buy a special tool to do it because I didn't have the tool for doing these direct injection injector seals. So that all together totaled up to $365, which actually wasn't that bad. And I think all data says that the labor on that about 6 to 8 hours or something. So that will kind of give you an idea based on where you are, what the cost of labor is. Now we're coming into what I did on the suspension. The suspension on this vehicle, depending on where you live, here in Boston, the roads are pretty rough. So I beat up the suspension pretty good, and it seems that the right front of my suspension took the most beating. So I've gone through and replaced most of the right front, and eventually I'll get to the other side, and But this is what I am spending so far. So I ended up spending $820 on suspension components, and that equals front sway bar links, front sway bar bushings, the front upper control arm, the one strut, and front strut top, and the bolts. A lot of those bolts on there, they're torque to yield bolts, so you can't use them more than once. Even though I did a couple times when I was trying to figure some things out, but I eventually ended up replacing all the bolts, and it only comes out to about $40 from the dealer, which really isn't that bad. So that comes out to my $819 for the front suspension. For the winter around here, I bought snow tires, which I got lucky. I found a couple year-old ones floating around at a Firestone, and the guy just couldn't sell them, so he gave me a good deal on some Blizzaks. I spent $650, mounted, balanced, taxes, out the door. It was a great deal, brand new, 2-year-olds Blizzaks, and so I got those. And then since then, I've had to balance my tires a couple times. I spent about $115 to balance the tires. So with a grand total now, I've spent roughly around $4,900 for parts, my labor, and to keep this thing on the road for the past 4.5 years, which is, I've got, I think it's a total of about 56 months now. So you break it down per month, and it costing me about $87.50 more per month. But you gotta remember, this doesn't include any labor from anywhere else except, like, when I balance the tires, snow tires mounted and balanced on my set of factory rims, and a couple things with the oil changes. I mean, you're looking at, water pumps about 2-3 additional hours in labor. I got maybe about 4 hours or so in labor on the suspension components in the front. It all depends on your market where your labor is. I mean, around here, labor is expensive. The dealer's like $200 an hour, I think. Independent shops are over $100. Trying to figure out labor is a little difficult. So that's why I just went on parts, because, I mean, for the most part, these are all factory parts. Everything's off of like either FCP Euro or Pelican parts. And I just basically shopped when I got the best price for that stuff. So that's kind of universal. Some stuff I also got through Suncoast Porsche, where they had some stuff on sale down there, so I picked that up. So that's how I ended up buying all these parts. That's pretty much about what you could expect for its cost of ownership on this vehicle. I got the thing at 40,000 miles. I brought it all up to about 93 or 94,000 on it right now. This is a pretty good, representation of it, minus, I would say, a lot of the suspension components. I mean, if you, like around here, you're going to go through them. Where you're at, you might not have all this stuff over there as far as the suspension, and you probably can get, 120, 130, maybe even more, 150 without having to replace anything that's going bad. So this could be a little bit lower. So I hope this helps you guys out as far as what you can expect from the cost of ownership of this of a Cayenne. Obviously, this does not apply to the V8 or the turbo, because at least some stuff does apply. But this is based on my own personal vehicle, which is the VR, the V6 version. Thanks for watching Kevin's European Garage. Please subscribe if you haven't. Like this video, and I'll have some more coming out soon. Thanks.